Father, I want to begin this prayer with an admission that is uncomfortable but necessary. I have been missing it. Not the dramatic, obvious gifts that are impossible to overlook, but the steady, daily, quietly extraordinary evidence of your presence and your goodness that has been woven through every single day of my life, including the hard ones, including the ones I spent convinced that nothing was going right. I have been so focused on what I am still waiting for, so preoccupied with the gap between where I am and where I want to be, and so accustomed to measuring my life by what it lacks rather than by what it contains, that I have been walking past blessings I did not have the eyes to see. I have been receiving grace I did not have the awareness to acknowledge. I have been living inside provisions I treated as ordinary because I had received them consistently enough that I stopped experiencing them as gifts. Today, Father, I do not want to miss it anymore. I am asking you to open my eyes, to recalibrate my attention and my perception until I can see my life the way it actually is, full of your daily fingerprints, rather than the way my ingratitude has been presenting it to me. Open my eyes, Father, specifically and practically. My eyes have been trained to scan for problems, to identify deficiencies, and to notice what is absent before they register what is present. That is not entirely my fault. The world reinforces that orientation constantly, reminding me of everything I do not have, everything that could be better, and everything that others possess that I do not. But I am tired of living with that as my default lens, because the life it produces is one of perpetual insufficiency, even in the middle of genuine abundance. Retrain my attention. Teach my eyes to linger on what is good, rather than rushing past it to inventory what is wrong. Let me become someone who notices, who actually pauses and recognizes and receives the blessings that are already present in my life, rather than someone who will only acknowledge them in hindsight, years later, when the perspective of distance finally reveals what was always there. Forgive me for the ingratitude that has characterized more of my days than I am comfortable admitting. Forgive me for the mornings I woke up and cataloged my concerns before I acknowledged the miracle of waking at all. Forgive me for the meals I consumed without a genuine thought for the grace that provided them. Forgive me for the relationships I took for granted, the people who showed up for me consistently, who loved me steadily, whose presence in my life is a daily gift that I rarely stop to appreciate, because their reliability has made them feel permanent when nothing in this life is. Forgive me for the health that functions quietly in the background, doing its unremarked work of keeping me alive and capable, that I only think about when it falters. I have been the recipient of extraordinary grace at ordinary intervals, and I have received it with a casualness that it did not deserve. Change that in me, Father, not through guilt, but through a genuine awakening of gratitude that makes the overlooking impossible going forward. Change my perspective from the inside out, not just how I think about my life in the abstract, but how I actually experience each moment of it as it is happening. I want to be present to my own life in a way that I have not been. Present to the morning light and the sound of familiar voices and the small comforts that make a day livable. Present to the moments of unexpected kindness from people who owed me nothing. Present to the problems that resolved themselves, the needs that were met in ways I did not engineer, and the coincidences that were not coincidences at all, but were your hand moving quietly through the details of my daily existence. Give me the eyes to see all of it as what it actually is, not background noise, not the unremarkable texture of an ordinary life, but daily evidence of a God who is actively present, consistently generous, and personally invested in the details of my life, in ways that my ingratitude has prevented me from fully recognizing. Help me to recognize you in the small things, because I am beginning to understand that the small things are where you most consistently show up, and that the capacity to find you there is what makes the difference between a life experienced as abundant and a life experienced as lacking. The grand gestures and the dramatic interventions are real, and I am grateful for them, but they are not the primary texture of daily life. The primary texture is made of small things. The conversation that went better than expected, the provision that arrived at precisely the right moment, the sense of peace in a situation that warranted anxiety, the door that opened quietly without fanfare, the relationship that offered exactly what I needed before I found the words to ask. I do not want to miss those things anymore. They are where you live in my daily life, and I have been walking past them with my eyes on the horizon, missing the sacred in the ordinary because I have been waiting for something that feels more dramatic. Fill my heart with a gratitude that is active rather than passive. Not the kind that I only access in formal moments of prayer or when things are going remarkably well, but the kind that runs underneath everything, that colors how I receive every moment of every ordinary day, and that makes thankfulness the orientation from which I interpret my experience, rather than a response I produce when circumstances are obviously favorable. Let appreciation become my default response to being alive. Let me be the kind of person who carries a quiet and genuine sense of gift through every day. Not someone who has an easy life necessarily, but someone who has learned to see clearly enough that they never have to be reminded of how much they have to be thankful for. Let this prayer mark a genuine turning point in how I move through my days. Let it be the moment I stopped overlooking you, stopped scrolling past your presence in my life as though it were unremarkable, stopped treating your provision as expected, and stopped living in the gap between what I have and what I want, as though the gap were the whole story, when in reality, it is only the part of the story that my ingratitude has been amplifying. You are here. You have been doing things in my life that I will eventually look back on with wonder. And I want to start noticing them now, while they are happening, while there is still time to receive them with the gratitude they deserve, while I can still look up from what I am worried about long enough to see what I have already been given. Thank you, Father, for what I have that I have not properly acknowledged, for what you are doing that I have not been awake enough to notice, and for what is still coming that I have not yet seen, but can choose to anticipate with gratitude rather than approach with skepticism. Thank you for the daily blessings that have been present all along, waiting for me to develop eyes that could finally see them. Don't let me miss this, the beauty, the provision, the grace, the evidence of your goodness embedded in the ordinary hours of the days you have given me. I choose to see it today. I choose to see it tomorrow. And I am asking you to make that choice easier with every day that passes, until seeing you in everything becomes as natural as breathing.